I mean, with what you're doing in South Sudan, I must say it's a historic South Sudan Basketball Federation as they've qualified for first time for the FIBA World Cup this summer. So this is amazing work.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. He was the coach too.
Steph Curry, LeBron, D-Wade in China. Athletes are actively out there creating their own platforms to share their own stories. It will be interesting to see what that looks like 5 years, 10 years from now. Again, for Luol, for you, South Sudan has qualified for the FIBA World Cup. How does it feel to be an athlete, then going back home, becoming the president and telling people what to do, coaching the team, and then also looking at the future of sports, as somebody who champions and kind of an unofficial ambassador of growing sports in Africa? What does the future of sports in Africa look for you right now with what you're doing in South Sudan?
Yeah, so 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago when I retired, obviously I had the opportunity to, and I was elected, I didn't take it by force to be the president. There was an election going on, and being retired, the first thing I asked myself was, as soon as I retired, I was asked to be in a front office, in the NBA, to be in a coaching staff, and I really didn't see myself doing that. I wanted a little break. And when the opportunity came to be, to put my name in and to become the president, I did. And when I won, I was actually, and I'm being honest, the first thing I said, I was like, what the hell did I just do? So I was going to take on this task of being the president of the whole country for Basketball Federation. And when I first put my name in, I really thought of just the games, just basketball. Then you realize the basketball courts. There's no women's league. There's no under 18. There's no this. There's 13 states. There's no basketball courts. And you're just like, okay, what am I doing? So I sat down and I said, okay, the first thing I have to do is come up with a plan and really stick to this plan. And I knew that we had a lot of South Sudanese players that are playing abroad, playing in Europe, and playing in the NBA. So my idea was to reach out to them and to make the national team so good that not only do we qualify for AfroBasket and for the World Cup, but I wanted to put it out there for people to realize that, South Sudanese are very talented. Africans are very talented when it comes to basketball, but it's the structure around what we're trying to achieve. So we came up with a plan, and when I first got into it was to just win a few games. We were not ranked. South Sudan didn't have a team. We were not ranked. If we're ranked, we're 54th country in Africa, and there's only 54 countries in Africa. So now qualifying, we ended up being 11-1, the best record in Africa, and we're going to the World Cup. And now everybody's talking about South Sudan and basketball. And from that, we ended up renovating 8 basketball courts. We started a women's league, and sponsors have been coming in to support us. And from that money that we gain from the sponsors is how we're able to renovate and do all these leagues and hopefully eventually put a basketball arena or stadium in South Sudan. So the plan is working, but to go back to your question, basketball in Africa, you have to know what you're doing. It cannot be the same as basketball in Europe. It cannot be the same as basketball in Asia or South America. You have to understand what is your strategy and how is it going to work. Right now, we have BAO coming into Africa. FIBA is in Africa. My thing with being involved in both of them is I'm challenging to keep putting the idea out there that we have to approach basketball differently. We have to have a different strategy, and we have to understand what are we trying to achieve out of basketball in Africa. We know that there's a lot of players that are coming out of Africa to the NBA, but how are we developing the game within? What is the league looking like? Is there a youth program? Is there grassroots? And that's how you have to approach it. And, as we keep working, one thing that I would say is I'm happy that they are in the continent, but now there's a conversation that needs to take place on what is the strategy to grow basketball.
Yeah. What is the strategy for a sustainable growth in building the infrastructure that actually benefits everybody? And we're talking about basketball, but football is already there in Africa. We also know that other sports like volleyball, all these different academies that are coming up, it takes people like yourselves going back and looking at how we then grow it. We know that 2026, the first Youth Olympics, will be in Dakar. I'm truly excited about it as somebody that works for the Olympics because we've never had it before. But how do we then sustain it when we're gone? What is the Africa story? And both of you, as Olympians, Ronny, the Paris 2024 comes to Paris next year. Exciting times. Luol, your team has qualified for the World Cup. If you do well at the World Cup, you could possibly be going to Paris. How does that make you feel? One, it's coming home to you, and two, you could be possibly going and be the biggest story that arrives next year.
For me, it feels great. I remember being at my high school with Tony Parker and Boris Diaw when we thought that we was going to be having the Olympics in 2012. Fast forward, now we're going to have it in Paris. I'm excited about it. I'm looking forward to see what the obviously the French national team is going to do in the Olympics, and it's very exciting for sports in general in France. It should be a good time, and I'm looking forward to see what happens.
And for you, Luol?
I have a different, I was in the Olympics. I played for Great Britain. At the time, because of the Civil War, I couldn't really, South Sudan didn't have a team I couldn't represent, so I played for my adopted country. So this one will have a different feeling for me. I think, being the youngest nation in the world and in such a short time to be in a World Cup and then to have a chance to go to the Olympics, to me, it's amazing to see it because once you're a new country, you feel that all these opportunities are going to take a long time to present themselves. But, even now, it's a lot of people that I tell people I'm from South Sudan, and right away it's the south of Sudan, and you're kind of explaining, no, it's the youngest nation. We have this, we have that. So now we put ourselves in a platform where we are a topic of another conversation where we come up. It's not just about the game, but you get to know South Sudan. You get to hear. We get to hold our flag and walk down the Olympics. So it's a dream that's going to be. I can't describe the feeling till when I'm there.
Yeah, and I think I'll end on saying that over my career of the last 22 years, I've been very fortunate to cover some of these athletes. And for me, I've always never, ever covered you guys on how many points you scored, but what you were building back home in the communities, the impacts you're creating with young people. And I guess for me, where I'm at now with the Olympics.com, is just continuing that and knowing that the new athletes now are all about impact and are all about community. And it takes all of us to come together to grow this. So on that note, Luol and Ronny, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you all of you for joining us as well.
Thank you.